What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Dot Dattie Podcast, and as you can see, if you are a fan of the Squid Games, we got Dan, player 204 from the Squid Games Challenge. Thank you for being here, Dan.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Let's get into it. I got a lot of questions for you. I was a big fan of the original series. I'm a fan of the challenge. What was it, 462 people, 452 people?
456 players.
456 players. How did you find out about the casting for Squid Games?
So everybody that knows me knows this. I've been applying to Survivor for 22 years now. And so I've always wanted to do a reality type show. My daughters were messing around on Instagram or TikTok, and they saw the ad to apply. They're like, Dad, you should apply. I said, I've been applying to Survivor for 22 years and I've never gotten anything. They said, just do it. So I went in my garage, I did one take, sent it in, and I got a call within a few days to move on in the application process.
Wow. And what did you just take your phone and just kind of do like a selfie record?
That's it. That's all I did. I just held it up and talked right into it.
Did you just send an email? That was it? And then they called you? How long did you have to wait?
Well, there's a very long application. Questions, and I guess they're trying to do a little bit of a psych check, but a lot of questions about what kind of person you are, how would you play this game, and it was long. Like I said, I've applied to Survivor so many times and a few other shows, and the application questions on this were way more involved, and there were just so many of them. The whole process, I applied in July, and I didn't get my final acceptance until January. The beginning of January. So, it was a long process, multiple phone interviews, interviews with psychiatrists, medical evaluations.
It was crazy.
Basically, yeah. And obviously they didn't catch it. They let me through.
But ladies and gentlemen, he's just joking. He's actually a physician's assistant. This guy does surgeries on knees. He's not crazy. What was the process when you were auditioning and you're doing these phone interviews? Were they Zoom calls, like kind of like that?
Yeah, everything was a Zoom call. Studio Lambert is the name of the casting company that worked for Netflix that cast the show. And everything was on time. Everything was prompt. When they told you it was going to start at 6 o'clock, start at 6 o'clock. I can't say anything. I can't even make up anything bad to say about Studio Lambert. They were amazing through the whole process. And for somebody like me, I've never done this before. I'm a normal guy. There were no hiccups, no bumps in the road. It was phenomenal, the whole process.
That's good to hear. So you encourage people to apply for the next series?
Listen, the estimates were 200,000 up to 700,000 applicants for our show. I don't know which one's real. But I can tell you for season 2, after the success, it's going to be triple, quadruple that number. So I would encourage everyone to get your application in and do it. Casting is open. So I would say get it in as soon as possible.
I believe, man, wow, you were picked, at minimum, you were picked from over a couple 100,000 people.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is insane. If you think about the odds of getting picked, there's a lot of luck involved in that and in the game. So I had a little bit of luck for sure.
Yeah. You struck a chord with somebody.
I hope so.
That's seriously impressive. Just to get picked for whatever reason that might be, and then to go on the show, and then to make it as far as you actually did make it.
Yeah.
Because, you can go through the whole process and then be eliminated in red light, green light.
There are people that went through that same 7 month process, and their entire game experience was 1 minute.
Yeah.
So, that would have been pretty sad for me if that had happened to me.
Did they at least pay for your flights and travel?
They paid for everything. You had to pick 3 airports within a certain radius of your home. I live in southern New Jersey, 20 minutes from Philadelphia airport, but for whatever reason, they picked Newark. So they sent 2 cars, actually, pulled up at my house at 4 o'clock in the morning. And one of them was a Ford Expedition, and the other one was a Lamborghini truck. So take a guess which one I took to the airport. And they paid for all of that. They paid for the flights. They paid for we stayed in a hotel for 3 days, some people for 5 days before the game started.
This is in London.
Quarantined in London, yes. So they paid for everything. There was no out-of-pocket expense at all.
That's amazing. That one, you get a free trip to London, right? Had you ever been to London before that?
No, and I still haven't actually been to London because we weren't allowed to go outside. We weren't allowed to do anything. We were in the room only, except to eat.
Okay, so you fly to London, you get out the airport, you go to the hotel. I'm assuming other cast members are probably there, right?
Yes.
And then what do? Take you to like a huge warehouse or something?
Well, what they staggered when people got there, because if you can imagine 456 people coming into a hotel lobby at the same time. And it was, listen, the scale of this thing, the scale of just the production is almost unthinkable. So they staggered people getting there. Then you were put in your room.
No roommate?
No roommate. So you were in your room for some people 4 days, some people 2 days. I was there for 3 days prior to the start of filming. And you had assigned dinner times. There were guards or security everywhere. You were not allowed to talk to anybody. When you got to the elevator, there were people on the elevator, outside the elevator, part of the production that you cannot talk. If you talk, you're out. You had to have a COVID test as soon as you got there. One guy that I know of for sure was 2 doors across from me. I heard him crying. And when they came back, he had to leave because he had COVID. So that's another heartbreaking story. You go all that way. So we were there for, again, anywhere from 5 to 2 days in the room. And I made the most of my time in the room. I can tell you that. Some people were sleeping. I was working out every day. I've posted some of my stuff on Instagram, making funny videos for my kids to watch.
I love them.
Thanks. And I was watching YouTube. How do you beat the games of Squid Game? So there were some hints, from the Mr. Beast thing, a lot of things like for red light, green light, for Cookie. So I was watching and studying the entire time. I barely slept. I was so excited. But I was working in there, man. I wasn't just sitting in the room watching the sights of London out of the window.
That's smart. And speaking of the Mr. Beast, so what did you think about the whole Mr. Beast? Because I had seen some things. People were like, why didn't Netflix at least reach out to him? The biggest YouTuber in the world, Mr. Beast, and he already done Squid Games. What did you think about his project?
I saw, and again, I'm not a huge social media guy. I'm trying to get better at it. But all my friends are good. Did you see that people are commenting, Mr. Beast already did this? No, he didn't. He didn't do this. Yeah. Mr. Beast. And
he did a version.
Yeah, he did a version of it that was nowhere near the scale or the production quality of this. And I'm not bashing him. My kids love that guy. Yeah. And his burgers are awesome, by the way.
He's amazing.
He is amazing.
He does so many cool things.
Yeah, it's great.
But it was just one of his videos out of many videos.
Right. I mean, you know how social media is, just like I do. Some people aren't happy unless they're bashing something, but there's no comparison to what he did. If you try to compare to this, it's not.
And I don't think the prize money was the same either, was it?
I don't know. I never watched his.
Okay.
I watched pieces of it, but I don't know what the prize was. But he gives out a lot of money, that guy, so he's doing all right for himself.
He's generous.
Yeah.
So there's been lots of rumors about the red light, green light challenge. Walk us through the process of that, because the whole thing was, to us, it looks like, it's 45 minutes. It was an hour long, but what was it really like?
So we got on the buses that morning under the cover of darkness because we were all in our tracksuits in London at a hotel. They didn't want people to see us. There were 4, 5, 6 huge buses. We go maybe 2 hours to I found out later was an old Royal Air Force hangar. We get out of the buses. The sun is just coming up. This building, I have never seen a building this big. You could have probably fit 5, 6 football fields inside the building. Maybe more. It's the biggest building I've ever seen. We go in and you're directed to these lines based on your number. You go to the line fills up. Now you're directed to a tent, again, based on that number. And that's where I met Marcus. He and I were the first 2 in line at our line, 209, who ends up being my best friend in the game. And then we went to the tents. And I can tell you, that building, there's no way to air condition or heat that building. And it was absolutely freezing in there. It was January 23rd in London, freezing. They had little space heaters in there that everyone was crowding around, and more than half of us couldn't even get anywhere near it. They had food, hot tea, coffee. I don't drink coffee. So now that was the waiting game. They came in, they gave us our vests, our microphones. They put the squib pack on when that thing that exploded and looked like you were shot. They put those on. I
thought those were so badass.
They were pretty cool.
That made it look so much more real. Obviously, they can't kill people. Right. But that just had to be, even being a contestant and letting that explode. It's like, because I loved when they did the feint too. They're like,
yeah. They told all of us to act like you're dead or pretend that you're getting shot. But there was never the word kill was not used in this game. It's eliminated. Okay. Eliminated is what you could say. And it was cool. I'll tell you what, I didn't want to ever see mine go off. I didn't want, because apparently there were different settings from leak to mild blast to blow your head off or whatever. They had different versions of that thing exploding based on, I guess, the situation. I don't know. And they were all controlled electronically.
And everybody has these on like while you're out in this hangar doing.
Yes. So that's part of the long pre portion was they had to fit everybody. And there was a whole wardrobe team there, and they wanted to get everybody fit right because they didn't want it to restrict your movement. At the same time, they needed to have that on there and make sure it worked. It was syncing to the remote, whoever was controlling them. And that took a while. And then we went finally to the room. We're all standing again in our lines, and they opened the door and they had us come in, and it was game on, man. You should have seen this set. It looked exactly like the show. I'm like, holy shit. Look at this place. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I mean, it was incredible. But they made us go in and out multiple times, obviously, to get the right shot. Then the official rule maker or adjudicator came in. Anybody that had a question about what was going on got to ask a question. Some people had the dumbest basic questions ever. And I'm like, yeah, you're allowed to breathe. Like, come on, man. So that took forever. And then they finally said, all right, they actually had a personal trainer come in and stretch everyone out, which was neat, I guess. Were you
assisting? Were you like, I know I'm doing?
No, I'm like, dude, let's just get to it, man. I don't need this guy to stretch me out. If you didn't stretch, if you're not ready, that's on you. Yeah. I don't need you shouldn't be doing this. And then it finally started. And
so what was your strategy? Because to me, the simplest mistake in red light, green light, you're fucked.
What people don't understand, if you like you just said, you watch it on TV and you're like, okay, 5 minutes. It took 5 minutes. When they explained the rules, they said that when it's red light, you're going to have to hold your position, possibly for multiple minutes. I think that's the word they use, multiple minutes. I'm like, all right, I can stand in any position. I do surgery all day. I'm standing there. Big deal. No, I think, and there are estimates of anywhere between 30 to 42, 43 minutes where you're standing in one position. If you moved at all during that red light time, again, 35, 40 minutes, if you moved at all, you're done. You got popped. You got eliminated. And you think standing still is not hard?
People get bored, and it's just like in an uncomfortable position, like the girl who was squatting.
Now, by the way, they did her dirty. I think she was squatting for about 15 minutes. From one of the guys, my friend, who was right near her, he said that she was squatting for the longest. We couldn't even believe she held that squat.
The iron chair is no joke.
No, she was a beast, that girl. But the cold, I hate the cold. Even though I live in the Northeast, I hate it. I can't stand it. I'm a baseball guy. You can't take ground balls when there's snow on the ground. And the cold was the worst part of the whole thing for me. I mean, I couldn't feel my hands, my feet. I was starting to go out of it. Like, I'm dazed. The way they had the floor, I'm sure it was by design. There were a bunch of speckles in the floor that they're moving. It's almost like you had nitrous when you're a little kid getting cavities filled. Everything was just going in and out. It was tough, man. I've been hit in the face with a 92 mile an hour fastball, had a motorcycle accident, almost died. After COVID, 40 blood clots in my lungs, almost died. Jeez. This was the hardest thing I've ever done physically. Wow. Red light, green light. It took me probably at least 7.5, 8 hours.
So that really weeded out the week.
It
How
weeded
bad
out.
Did you want it?
It weeded out more than a week. There were Army Rangers there.
Really?
Ex-professional athletes, Navy SEALs that didn't make it through red light, green light. So people that made it through that, just to make it into the dorm through red light, green light, you're a beast.
How many people got wiped out that first?
259.
Wow. So half.
Over half, yeah.
Wow. And so if you stopped like this, like you're standing like this, you couldn't put your hands in your pocket.
No, you're done. So if you watch it close, my strategy was I just kept my hands in my pocket.
And would you power walk?
No. Again, for me, this was a marathon, not a sprint. I knew how much time was on that clock because it was in front of us. I counted the beams in the ceiling. So I figured it was about 100 to 110 yards. I knew where I needed to be at the halfway point on the clock. And that's all I was worried about. Some people were trying to win that event, and they went out real quick.
Yeah.
I had different strategies. I watched those YouTube videos. My first one, it said, okay, get a wide base, bend your knees a little bit. The first stoppage, I did that. About 8 seconds into that stoppage, my legs were quivering already. I'm like, this was the dumbest thing you've ever done in your life. And I'm shaking. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to go out already. My older daughters are going to murder me if I go out in red light, green light. So I changed it up. Then I actually did a couple rounds where I dove and laid on my stomach.
I was wondering why they were doing it, but that makes sense now.
Yeah. The thing that I was worried about laying there, it was even colder because the floor was freezing. So now I'm laying on the ground and I'm going, I can't do this anymore. But I did see something in a video where they said, if there's a wall, lean against the wall. So I made my way kind of periodically to my right, and eventually I would end up running, jumping on the ground and sitting and leaning up against the wall.
Genius. At
one point, I got up from laying down and stepped on the back of the heel of my shoe, and that my shoe was half off, flopping around. And I'm like, this is really going to get me here, walking out of my stupid shoe. But that was my strategy. I ended up using the wall and leaning against the wall because it helped me stay still. You were allowed to shiver. There was no, but if you were shivering a lot, you got popped. Yeah. It was tough, man. It was really hard.
So you're just probably sitting there focusing on your breathing, just trying to...
I went into a different place mentally, yeah, because I actually started to fall asleep. My body was going, this is not supposed to happen. We're going to shut it down. And I remember there was a girl in front of me, Cheney. She had gold things on her braids, and that's what I ended up focusing on. Every time we had to stop, I was looking at those and then counting the little dots on them.
Just to keep your mind occupied?
I'm telling you, man, standing still for 30 minutes is not easy.
It's not easy. Trying to maintain your exact position.
It's really hard. I never thought it would be that hard. It was hard. But again, there are a lot of people complaining. They want to sue Netflix because they got out.
I think there's 2 already.
They want to sue Netflix for inhumane treatment, and
even though that's what they signed up for.
Listen, Netflix is a very smart and big company. They've covered all their bases. Go ahead and sue Netflix. If you win a lawsuit against Netflix, we signed releases that said if anything ever happens, if an alien ship lands on our production and kills you, you can't do anything about it. And you signed up for a game for $4.56 million. What did you think it was going to be? A walk in the park?
Yeah.
No one had a gun to their head. You didn't have to stay there. There were people that just walked off. They didn't get popped. They were like, this is not for me. I'm out. And they quit.
What was the reason? Because when we're watching the show, it just looks like, okay, my thing went off. The guy comes over wearing the suit, and they tap on to say, leave or whatever. Why was there such a big time in between? Why didn't they just get off and, start again?
In the beginning, when there were so many people, I think, so they would say green light, red light. They had, if you can imagine, I don't even know, hundreds of cameras in there. They had actual people looking through windows up top. You couldn't see that in the show. And they had drones, and you did not want the drone near you. I figured that out real quick. So when they say red light, it took that long because they had to go back and watch the live footage to see who moved after. Because with all those people,
they were rewatching the footage.
The adjudicators were looking to make sure they got the right people out. Yeah,
like an NFL playback.
Yeah, and with that many people, imagine how long it took. I'm sure adjudicator 1 was assigned to players this through this, but it took, and they wanted to make sure they got it right. Yeah,
that makes sense.
This was not some fly-by-night production, man. This was the real deal.
They were not just winging it.
No,
they were not just winging it. All right, so you made it through the red light, green light challenge. What was in the fanny packs?
So everybody in the dorm got a fanny pack. I actually have mine. I was able to.
Nice. That's the real one.
This is from the show. This is the fanny pack from the show. You had your number Velcroed on. This is not the number. They did take the number. My wife had this remade for me.
That's a good wife.
So, what I have in my fanny pack, I have a lot of stuff actually.
Now, were these things that were supplied to you?
These were supplied, yes.
Okay.
Nothing was allowed to be brought into the game. Nothing. Even your underwear. So here are a few pairs of the underwear because they were in my. I was using them.
Those are good though. They're nice.
Yeah, they're not bad. I was using them as a night shield because they had fluorescent. I guess it's fluorescent lighting above the beds to make it harder to sleep, to make it a worse experience. So I would put these over my head and use them as an eye shield.
So they never shut the lights off?
They shut the lights off, but there was a light over your bed. which I think for safety reasons, because I was on the top bunk of 5 high. You need to climb down to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So I do have the underwear. These are the official socks that they gave us.
Okay.
And they get in the bathrooms where the showers were different bins, underwear, bras, razors, all kind of stuff, lotion, things like that. This is my toothbrush from the game.
Oh, they did give. Is that wooden?
This is wooden, and everyone's had their number.
I even had the number on.
My number is right on there, 204. Just so you didn't stick somebody else's toothbrush in your mouth. Yeah. This was a big thing. Again, everything was numbered. This is the lip balm. Okay. So chapstick gate was a real thing in there.
It's cold.
People, in the dorm it was not cold. Okay. It wasn't hot, but it was normal. But and I didn't have this problem. A bunch of people had chapped lips after like 2 days. I mean, people's lips were cracking and bleeding. I'm sure that doesn't look good on TV. So they ended up coming out with those. I don't know how they got it done so fast because that was not part of the original package.
Oh, they just brought them in.
All of a sudden, because so many people complained. But I was in the dorm and people were complaining about their lips. So in one of the bins in the bathroom were these guys. 500 of them.
No, there were.
At least a whole bin.
Is that a condom?
It sure is. This is an official Squid Game condom.
Okay.
Apparently, it looks like there's blue ink in it. But so I remember saying, I said, listen, everybody's complaining about their lips not being lubricated. I'm pretty sure there's lubrication in here. A bunch of people. The next morning, they were all gone. Production was freaked. Was there an orgy? Where was all the condom? People were using it on their lips for lubrication. So
since we're on that, were there any hookups?
I'm sure there were. I didn't. Again,
they didn't put it on camera. Obviously.
They didn't show it, and I think the people that I heard that may have been doing that may have not wanted it on camera too.
Okay.
So there were so many cameras. I mean, I don't even know there were cameras in the bathroom stall.
What? Like
for
when
safety
you're taking
reasons.
a shit?
I mean, I think it probably only saw to here. So if you sat down, it couldn't see your, from the waist down. But for safety reasons too, they didn't want somebody dragging somebody into somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but everything was covered. But I'm sure there were some shenanigans going on, some extracurricular activity. But I'm a married guy, so I was not involved in that. And also,
he's a very loyal, good husband.
Yeah. And my wife did say, whatever you need to do to win that 4.5, you do it. So, but the place where we were, that was the furthest thing from anybody's mind.
Yeah.
It really was. It was compete, win, do whatever you have to do to make it to the next day. So I'm sure there were, but they were trying to like encourage showmances, I think. I did have one of the biggest showmances in the whole game, actually.
It was a bromance,
the biggest love story. Me and Marcus, man. I'm surprised the interaction between he and I did not get more. They showed a little bit of it, but I
had a lot of screen time.
I got lucky, man.
Yeah.
I'm nothing special, believe me, and I got a lot of screen time.
I really didn't see the guy who made it to third, the guy with the big beard, everyone who's listening.
Great dude.
I didn't see him till like the 8th, 9th episode, 10th episode. Yeah. Never seen him. Yeah. I was like, who the hell is that guy?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, 450, this is not like Survivor. You have 18, 20 people. It's almost impossible to not get airtime. In this show, 456 people, they had to pick and choose what they wanted to highlight. Like I just said, there were people in there way nicer looking than me, way funnier, way more interesting. And for whatever reason, my storyline, the arc of what happened, it just happened to fit their storyline. So by no means...
You also rose to leadership positions as well.
I try to. In the right situations, I try to, yes.
So, I mean, it was... we'll go into it.
I'm done with this.
Anything
yes.
crazy?
We had
they didn't give you any knives?
This is the toothpaste. All right? It's a very minty... It actually still smells good. At some point, I was eating this to get some sugar.
Toothpaste?
This is toothpaste.
Okay.
What else do we have here?
You got a razor?
Hand sanitizer. This is what I was using to shave my head. I've never used a real razor. I use a buzzer. So Charlie, thank you for doing that for me.
Ones too.
These are terrible. They're disposable. Disposable crap. And I think that's it. This here is the actual. So we had to have battery changes every 7-8 hours, I guess, because it's just 24/7 audio and video on everyone.
Yeah.
So we had to have individual battery packs. This is the belly band that would wrap around and hold your battery.
Okay.
This was on me when I got done, and I completely forgot. That's it. Everything else is kind of...
That's cool. So they didn't let you bring anything in, and they did give you some supplies. They gave you very limited supplies, but they did give you a little.
They gave us way more than I thought I was going to get, and way more than I was prepared to have. So as far as the living conditions...
Why'd you pick the very top bunk?
It wasn't by mistake. When Marcus and I walked in, we walked in together. I said, listen, I need the sniper spot here. I want to be... So I picked the highest point in the middle of the dorm. I could see the bathrooms and the shower entrance. I could see the other entrances. I could see everything from my vantage point. I wanted to be able to see who's talking to who's going to the bathroom in the middle of the night with the same person disappearing. I wanted to know what was going on, man. And I thought that was the best place to be, at least in the beginning, because there's almost 200 people there. Yeah. So at that point, I wanted a sniper spot.
Makes sense. Let me ask you about something else before we go into to the next segment. The guy on the phone, he answers the phone, he gets a prize. Then he answers the phone again. It was a little hard to watch. You know, I'm like, why did you do
Well, at that point in the game, 198, he answers the phone first. They didn't show, there were 2 other times where the phone got answered, but they didn't show it. One guy got a pizza, which he shared with his little group. One guy, Elliot, got a big box of donuts, which he, again, shared with his group. So this was now the 4th time the phone rang. And my alliance, my people, we couldn't have been further from that friggin' phone. We wanted nothing to do with it because they're not going to keep giving good stuff. Yeah. And nothing comes without a price. So we knew that, you know what? So what? When am I going to get a pizza? Now I'm going to be craving food that I haven't had in a week anyway. No thanks. We stayed away from it. And his reasoning was, it wasn't so much that he wanted to get Brighton out, 432. It was that he didn't want Brighton or any of Brighton's friends to get the phone because he knew they were going to get him out if there was an option for that.
But it could have been. You don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. So he was playing strategy. He didn't want anyone else to get it. Is why he did it. Why
do you think so many people were? It seemed like player 432. He was a little controversial. He had a little. So he had some people who didn't like him. He had some people who liked him, but some people didn't.
Sure. Brighton is a D1, a big D1 football player. Clemson, I believe, is where he went. I had many conversations with him. With my background, he was talking to me about his knee surgeries, and the kid was so, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, like very polite. He comes off as cocky and arrogant. I didn't have a problem with the guy at all. I've been around athletes my whole life, man. And if you're somebody that's not sure of yourself, when you're presented with a guy like that, you're going to say, oh my gosh, this guy's a jerk. He's overbearing. He's cocky. He's just confident, man.
And an alpha male.
Yeah. He's a confident, athletic, physically superior. If you look at the kid, he's jacked and he's a big dude too. But he was nothing but nice to me. I didn't have a problem with him. I was glad that he left because I didn't want to go against him in anything physical. I would have been overmatched. So, but from a personality standpoint, I think maybe he could be considered abrasive, but why is his opinion of anything any less important than somebody else's opinion? Yeah. That's the part that I didn't agree with. If he doesn't like this, that's his opinion. Yeah. Why are people giving him a hard time? You don't like that. Nobody's giving you a hard time. So I don't know. I thought the kid was cool. I liked him.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And then he got out, and then what we're about.
I can't believe that.
Well, first let me ask, so what cookie shape did you get?
Yeah, they didn't show it. I had star. All right.
You had the star?
I had star.
And what was your strategy?
Luckily, all the preparation that I did, I never practiced the damn cookie. Like an idiot. I never practiced it. So Mai was in my line because we were friends. And I said, I'm like panicking. I'm like, I've never done this before. She gave all of us, 30 of us, clues and hints and some strategy how to get this done without breaking it. So the strategy was take the cookie out, spit into the tin. Now, I was prepared to spit a river into the tin, but if you can imagine how stressful it was, I think I spit like 2 rocks into the tin. I had no saliva. It was brutal. So you spit in the tin, you put it back down, that'll start soaking in from the bottom. And with my surgery background, I've made many of an incision. So I was able to use that needle, and I figured 5 points. I have 10 minutes. 2 minutes on each arm of the star. Well, I got through the one altogether. I'm like, sweet. I look up and there's like 4 minutes and 26 seconds. And I still had 4 arms on the star to go. I'm like, oh no. And meanwhile, you're hearing 2, 3, 4, pass, 1, 6, 1, eliminated. What you're hearing that over the thing. Yeah. So I worked as quickly as I could. I looked up, there's about 40 seconds. You had to raise your hand. One of the guards would come over they were the actual adjudicators in guard uniforms. They would say, okay, pass, fail, eliminate. He says, well, you're going to have to take it out. And I'm like, nobody told me I had to take it out. It's completely separated.
That's what I wasn't sure of. Was it supposed to break the piece off? Like,
you had to either get the shape, in my case, the star out, or the border out and leave the star in. So there had to be a clear separation between the border, which makes sense. But I was not thinking clearly, obviously. So he says, you're going to have to take it out. Well, in the time I looked up at him to say, what do you mean I have to take it out? It had melded back together a little bit. So I went to pry it open. I'm like, oh shit, it's stuck together. Now I'm frantically going at it. I stuck the pin under the border and the whole border came out in one piece. And as I'm lifting the thing up to show I'm done, the time ran out.
No.
Literally, I didn't even have I was going up to say finished. It was so suspenseful. It would have been a great, everybody else's were good too. But for me, that was this really scary point because I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to make this at the last second. And I barely made it.
But it had to have been on camera for them to see, hey, he's done. He's not scraping anymore.
There were cameras right here. Steven, mullet.
Yeah.
Before we started, he had 30 guys laying in the sand with their cameras right on him. Talk about stressful, talk about a little bit of making it harder. There were cameras everywhere.
Was it just a sewing needle?
It was a regular needle. Yep.
Well, I'm glad you made it through that.
Oh, me too.
That looked difficult. Let me ask you this. Now the dude, $2.99,
Spencer.
crying. I felt bad for him, but I knew it was a game, and he could have easily just ran to another door. He could have easily just ran to one of the doors, right? As soon as you guys broke up, he was like, nope, I get triangle, right? He didn't do it. He got the umbrella. He wasn't happy about it. He's crying. Did you talk to him?
No, I had.
Did you ever meet him?
I had met him beforehand, just because you try to again with 20 people on an island, you could talk to everybody every day. With 200 people, you just can't. It's not reasonable or possible to make connections with all those people. So I had said good morning to him, but I didn't know him.
Were you there watching? Did you
that white room that we were in, which they showed a bunch of times? Everybody talks about hell. Hell is dark, fire, black. No. Hell is a white room with no shadows. You can't even see the corners. And we were in there for hours before these games. So when the first group of shape pickers went in, of course, you're screaming, don't take umbrella. Everybody in every line is telling their person, don't take umbrella. When they went in, all of a sudden, there's a big screen in that room. All of a sudden, they show up on the screen in the actual set. Those 4 people. And we were like, oh my God.
Didn't even know.
We didn't know they were going to do that.
Okay.
Now they're there and we watched them decide on what shape they were going to take.
And he gives that speech.
Well, he was the second group, or he was the third group.
Okay.
The first group, this really pretty girl was trying to get this young kid who was my line to take the umbrella. And I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to be able to do the umbrella. And they didn't show it. She said, come on, just take the umbrella. And the 3 other ones had to take their shape. And he said, if I'm not taking the umbrella, she said, well, I guess something. And he said, well, I guess we're all going home then. And he stood his ground, because if he didn't, I would have had umbrella. So hats off to that kid.
Yeah.
Everybody can say what they want about, oh, why did he take the umbrella? What would you have done if the other 3 people seemed like they were not going to move? Because they had just watched 2 groups of people go home. 8 people got eliminated because they couldn't come to an agreement on the shape.
What do you think would have happened if you just bullied someone off of it? You
couldn't. The rules were you couldn't play a game. You couldn't do rock, paper, scissors. You couldn't flip a coin. You had to, as a group of 4 people, come to an agreement on what shape everyone was going to take.
So you had to
the second group tried to do a race. Okay, let's just race. That wasn't they violated the rules. That wouldn't have stood anyway.
Okay.
So there was no 4 people couldn't just throw the guy over. They had to come to an agreement. And I think it benefited my guy in that situation was Charlie. He went right to the star. He said, I'm going to go to the star. It's the second hardest one. Nobody's going to want it. And there are straight lines. Maybe we can get through it. So he went to the star and he wasn't moving. So that helped, actually. That was a ballsy move to put your hand on it and say, I'm not moving. But I think that we all benefited from having Spencer in there. He's not real sure of himself. He's got anxiety. He's talked about it. So I'm not saying anything out of turn. And he just wasn't sure of himself. And he literally wanted to help everyone. Yeah. That's what he's like, I'll help all of you guys. Spit on my cookie, the whole nine, you know? So I think the other 3, you know, if unless you're 5 years old, you could tell how confident somebody is by looking at him. Yeah. And I think they could tell that he wasn't very confident and that they could, I'm not going to use the word bully. They didn't bully him, but they collectively, and I think they decided before they went in there, they collectively said, listen, if we stick to our guns here, he's going to fold. Yeah. I think, and I haven't talked to Brighton. Brighton is a competitor. Yeah. The dude played high-level D1 football. He's not going to go out with no chance. Yeah. If Spencer would have stuck to his guns there, and I would love to be able to ask Brighton, I guarantee Brighton would have said, you know what, F it, I'm going to go take the umbrella, and I'm going to beat the umbrella, and he probably would have. Yeah. I don't think he would have just gone out with no chance.
Makes sense. I mean, everything you're saying, I agree with. That's a strong strategy. Let's get into, you started the Gabu Gang.
Yes.
The Gabu Gang. And how'd you come up with that?
So contrary to some people's versions, I did name the Ganbu. I wanted to be called Ganbu, and I named it 4 months before I got there.
I love that.
I wanted to have
Ganbu Gang.
That's right. I wanted to have Ganbu Gang for life. GGFL, baby. I wanted to have a strategy. I knew there were going to be things I couldn't control. What I could control is if I was able to form an alliance, what was I going to call it? I wanted to pay homage to the real show. I wanted our alliance to have a name that people watching were going to go, oh, Ganbu, that's from the real show. I'm rooting for the Ganbu Gang. And it was a group of people that were like-minded. Nobody wanted to be like pushy. And that's how we kind of formed it. We had girls and guys in our alliance, again, contrary to what some people want to say. Yeah. But we had like-minded individuals. No one wanted to stand out and push people around. It was collective group of sharing, and I wanted us to have that feeling. Ganbu means friends for life, ride or die, never going to turn my back on you. If you think I didn't reiterate that every 5 seconds to our group, you're crazy. And my reason is, if we got to a point where we had to stab somebody in the back, they're not going to stab me in the back. Dan, we're Ganbu, baby. We're friends for life. I'm not going to stab my Ganbu guys. So I wanted to promote that mindset strategically. So when that point came, and there was going to be a point where we had to turn on each other, they weren't going to turn on me. So Perna, 031, awesome dude, great backstory. He added gang to it. So when you see us talking on the top level there, we had that conversation had already happened. We already talked about it. That's why Steve says, what's our name again? Because I had already said, dude, I want us to call our Ganbu. I want us to be called Ganbu. And Perna did add gang to it. Ganbu Gang. I thought gang, maybe people would have got offended and had some negative connotation. But it was a great name and people rooted for us.
Gee, I mean, you could Google it now. Like it's one of the top Google. Yeah. And you start typing that in, it comes right up.
Well, and there are some people that are, I didn't even know what they were called. The Goomba Gang, the Goo Goo. You knew what we were called.
They're haters.
We had a very...
They're glad they weren't in. They were mad they weren't in it.
And I tell you what, anybody could have been in it. If you wanted to hook up with us for one of those games, you're in the Ganbu Gang, man. We had, like Steve says, we had an open door policy. And I don't know. I wanted it to be something that people could root for. I wanted to be surrounded by good guys and girls. When I went in there, I had a strategy. For me, all of these reality games, you got to put a puzzle together. Mm-hmm. The hardest piece of the puzzle to find is that true ride or die, somebody that will, if push comes to shove, they may even sacrifice their game for you. I found that first in Marcus. First. It's the hardest part of the puzzle. Yeah. So once I found that, I said, all right, now I got to even though I consider myself an athletic, in shape guy, I got to find a meat shield.
Yeah.
Steven. Right?
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do.
And the dude is an impressive presence with the mullet and the big booty and the quads. I called him Quadzilla. I think that name stuck. So he was a big physical presence for people to look at. I knew we needed somebody that was way smarter than me because I'm not that smart. Doc. Yeah. All right.
Dr. Rick.
Doc Rick, he's the greatest dude ever. So
he got the tattoo. I saw it.
It's huge. His legs are sleeves. His legs are completely covered. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
No, he talked about it.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a second.
We'll pull that up right here.
You're a 69-year-old Doc. They don't do that. Yeah. He's a great guy, man. But anyway, so I wanted our alliance to have a name that people would root for and people in it that people liked. Yeah. And I think we did that.
No, I loved it. I thought it was genius. I thought it was a great strategy. That was smart. So you make it episode 3. Everyone's lined up thinking they're going to be tug of war. So the big guys, 4-3-2, he's got his big brawn guys. You got your gang. Everyone's lined up. You're thinking it's going to be tug of war because that's what it's like in the original series. You go through the doors and you learn that you're basically playing Battleship. I think they called it Warship.
Warship.
And on top of that, you end up being a captain. And then you find out if you lose, you get eliminated. You're thinking, I'm going to be the captain. I get to make the decisions. Walk us through it, because that was brutal. That was a little hard to watch.
They before we picked the captains, they told us, even if your team, if two of your boats are sunk, even if it's the 2 and the 3 boat, you'll still have 10 people remaining on your team. They will be safe, but the captain and the lieutenant will be out. So we did know that before we picked captains. Again, as a huge reality show fan, at some point you have to step up. And I wanted to do something. I stayed in the background this whole time. Something told me, this is your spot. This is where you have to step up, be a leader for the team, and take a freaking huge risk. And if you can pull this off, they'll look at you as a leader and they'll want to keep you around. So I knew I was going to have to take a chance at some point, and that was it. So who wants to be the captain? 3 of us raised our hand. Myself, Joel, and Rebecca. So again, strategically, I said, all right, let's all give our reason why. And I'm going to go last, because in my eyes, the last thing you hear is the first thing you remember, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I went last. So even then, I was trying to be a little bit strategic with my decision. And I gave the biggest rah-rah Newt Rockney speech of the century. I could see it in their eyes. They were tearing up. I was tearing up. I mean, I was so jacked up. I won a national championship in college baseball. This was just as intense for me.
I love that.
So I said, guys, when we thought it was tug of war, we had a system. We had our placements, who was going to be in the front, where we were going to put Doc, Lexi, James, the smaller people in between us. We had a cadence. So we all did it together, but I was kind of leading that discussion. I said, listen, guys, you believe in me out there. Believe in me right now, and I will get us through this. We will not lose. And I could see, and Steven says, I'm looking at the intensity in this guy's eyes. He's our man, guys. And then we took a vote, and it was unanimous, luckily. And then I had to pick my lieutenant. And Joel, he didn't get a lot of airtime. The dude's a K-pop star. As soon as I got home, I was looking people up, and my daughter goes, I know him. I'm like, what do you mean you know him? Oh, yeah, he's a K-pop star in Korea.
For real?
Yeah. And if you look at him, the dude is extremely attractive. He looks like a model. He's got literally the voice that should be the voiceover for anything ever spoken in the world. His voice is perfect. And I could tell by talking to him, he's extremely intelligent. So I picked him for my lieutenant. He was the one that made a very strategic decision on where to put our 2 and 3 boat. It was confusing the way he did it, and it helped us. So I said, this is where I'm going to have to step up, man. Yeah. And the way it happened, after we finished that, I said to Dylan, I said, people aren't going to believe it happened like this. They're going to think this was scripted. It was made to look a certain way. It came down to that last damn shot.
And you asked Rick, and you said, I got 5 kids. I'm feeling that 5. I got 5 kids. But then you were like, you know what? I guess you wanted to go to your friends, the Gabu gang. You asked Rick, Dr. Rick, and he says F8. And you end up going with it.
Well, I want Rick to have all the credit in the world, but it didn't happen exactly that way. The way it edited made it look like I only asked Rick. Every single pick we made, I was ultimately the one that made the pick, but I asked everyone's opinion. And then I made the decision based on hearing everyone's answer. So I asked everyone.
That's good leadership.
Well, I didn't want to be the only one making a decision because I was responsible.
This is a dictatorship.
Yeah, I was responsible for people staying or leaving there, including myself.
No, that's smart.
So Perna, James, and Elliot were all the way in the back. They were in the back corner. And I go, guys, please, I need to hear from them too. Everyone gave an opinion on F5 or F8. And I didn't ask Doc last. Marcus said 8. I think Dylan may have said 8. So the majority did go with 5. If I was to sit here and say Doc saying 8 isn't the reason I went 8, I'd be lying. I'm like, this guy has wisdom. He's been on this earth a long time, and it's not by accident. So him saying 8 was ultimately what drove me to pick 8. And they didn't show it. I like the way they did it better, but I was literally putting it into the 5 slot. And right before I made contact with the board, I'm like, shit, I'm going to go with Doc. And I went down to 8.
Wow.
But the way they showed it, when they didn't show what I did and no one knew, I'm telling you, man, to see the look on Doc's face, knowing that he made that decision, knowing that he helped the team win, that's all he was there for. Yeah. He didn't want to win. He doesn't need any money. He didn't need any money. Every day he was happy to be there. And to see Perna, he was standing on the boat, Gombu gang. Other than my kids being born, that was one of the most exciting, just suspenseful, intense things I've ever been through. It was amazing that it happened, and it propelled our alliance to
it was awesome.
Bigger, better
when you
things.
Pulled that off, I was like, fuck yeah. Because I was like, I knew you. I was like, yes.
It was so cool. We had a watch party at my house with my closest friends, my mom, dad, my kids, obviously. I was there. I already knew what happened. Watching it, I'm like, don't pick 5. Don't pick 5.
Did you tell your friends and family?
No.
You just
I wanted them to watch it. My friends, the only person that kind of knew whether or not I won is my wife, but she didn't know for sure either. I wanted them to experience this as I did. And if every single one of them knowing me and knowing how I am, you friggin' won. I know you won. There's no way you would not be pissed and just bashing everything about this if you didn't win. So I let them think that.
Yeah.
And some of my friends are now pissed at me. Why didn't you tell me you went out like that? I'm like, because I wanted you guys to feel what I felt.
Yeah, you let them go through the process.
They did.
I texted you when I realized you were on the show. I said, don't tell me. Don't tell me what happens. I want to know. I want to see it. I just want to see it play out. That was intense. And let's talk about, so you obviously watched, when you were waiting in between, I guess you couldn't see anything on the screen, right? You didn't know what
before Warship?
Yeah, so
no,
because the two teams went.
Yeah, they would take 2 at a time out. And when they were picking, it was pretty neat how they did it. They had everybody's number in a bag, and they said, okay, the first team to pick, and they picked a number, and then they reached in and picked another one. That's how they did the matchups. I'm looking around, and the team that I was least excited about facing was that team, because it had Big Chad. It had this guy Kwame, who was a monster. The guy Teo, who's like a fitness freak. And they had what appeared to be the strongest physical team.
And this is when you're thinking this is going to be tug of war.
Oh, yeah. So that's why we were like, it's going to be close. But Chad literally pulls trucks for fun. Like he does it like these fundraiser things.
Like a powerlifter?
He's pulling trucks with his bare hands on a rope. No, I'm like, what? So I called him the Grizzly Bear, and that stuck too, I think. But that was the team I was least excited about seeing. And of course, also there were some people on that team that I was friends with. Mai and Chad, Figgy, who was a former Survivor player. So I was friends with her. We met and we noticed each other because we know each other before the game. Before red light, green light, we said, she's like, Dan, I'm like, Figs. So
where did you meet her?
I am involved
in about Figgy?
Figgy, yeah. I'm friends with her already before we went to the show.
Oh, shit.
There's a fun. She's cute. She's a cute kid. There's a charity called Give Kids the World. It's for kids that are terminally ill. They have a thing called Hearts of Reality, which is a fundraiser every year in Florida where you can go and meet reality stars. That's why it's Hearts of Reality. Okay. And all the money goes to Give Kids the World. And it's a beautiful village of houses and apartments and condos where kids that are terminally ill can go. And every day they celebrate a different holiday. And I said to the lady, why are they celebrating a different holiday? And she said, well, because most of them aren't going to make it to the next holiday. I was like, oh my God, I was devastated. So I believe in that charity. It's a great thing. Anyway, that's where I met her. For 3 years, I've been going there, so she knows me. She knows my friend.
That's so crazy.
So
out of all the freaking people picked,
and I saw her before Red Lake.
Not even where you live, right?
Oh,
You're saying this is someone you met in Florida.
In Orlando, and she lives in Tennessee.
Wow.
So when we noticed each other, I said, Figs, listen, we're obviously going to share information. Let's split up. She's like, yep, let's get in different alliances, but we will obviously be, cooperative information.
Double agents.
Yeah, sure. Kind of. I mean, she had her people, I had my people, but I was certainly not trying to get her out. She was somebody that, if push came to shove.
Knew about your prior engagement? No. Oh, that's genius.
No. Matter of fact, Trey, the mother and son, Trey is very good friends with her now. Huge Survivor fan. I found a lot of my conversations in the dorm were Survivor centered. One of the guys I became good friends with made it to Survivor season 41. And then after COVID, he got cut. So we had met anyway. I said, Trey, you know that there's a player from Survivor here. He's like, no, there's not. I said, that's Figgy. He's like, no, it's not. I go, you want me to introduce you? So I introduced him to Figgy, and now they're very good friends. But I did not purposely try to get her out because she would have had my back, I think, in a pinch.
No, I think that's smart.
So again, this goes back to there were friends on that team too that I didn't want to have any part in taking out.
Let me ask you this. You brought up Trey, the mother-son duo. How did other people feel about that? Did they feel like it was unfair?
I don't think they felt it was unfair, but I don't think they were thinking about it at all. Because from a strategic, and if you're into these games, the people with the tightest bond, showmances, you got to get rid of them, right?
So you think when it's time to vote.
The fact that they weren't broken up before that is mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling that nobody said, maybe we should get rid of the actual blood bond in this room. The people that literally will die for each other. Yeah. Let's break that up. Didn't seem to be a problem for anyone. And I'm friends with them. I wasn't going to break them up, but how is no one thinking that?
It's good TV.
It is good TV. They're great people, man.
You had to, then you made it, was it episode 6? You got to play marbles. And you play it against player 209, who you had met from the day one. How'd that go?
When we had that picnic, I think that the way it looked on TV, everyone was so surprised that this was marbles. A lot of us were assuming it was going to be marbles. I said to Marcus, listen, man, I think we should split up here. This is probably marbles. He said, no, listen, we're sticking together. We've been together since minute 1. If this is marbles, I would rather go out at your hand and I'd rather you go out at my hand because we've been together since the beginning. And I said, all right. And then they made it look like people were enjoying the picnic and minutes and hours go by before Trey looks in the bottom of the basket. Didn't happen like that. It was instant. Didn't happen like that. Again, as a Survivor fan, I was looking for advantages this whole game. I was locking the bathroom doors, searching through things every day. People were like, why are the bathrooms locked? I'm like, oh, I guess they were cleaning them. Like, I was playing, man. So as soon as they said, you can open the picnic basket, I went right to the bottom because I figured if there's an advantage in here with all the cameras, they're going to say whoever finds it first is going to get an advantage. I went directly to the bottom, opened it up. I'm like, crap, false bottom. Good. The advantage is in there. And I opened it. It had to be 2 seconds.
It was a false bottom.
Yeah, there was a false bottom in there because all the cookies and the treats were there. I saw the bottom. I pried my fingers. I'm like, and then I looked up at Marcus and he's like, what? And I'm like, it's marbles, man. That literally took me 2 seconds because I wanted to be first. Yeah. They made it look like Trey wasn't the first one that found that. Okay. I found it literally in 2 seconds. And we didn't tell anybody because we were
good to be true, right?
Yeah, we were both distraught. So we didn't even tell anybody. People were like, hey, brownies, yay. And I'm like, there was a lot of food and we were starving, man. I lost 16 pounds in there and I'm not a big guy. Yeah. I couldn't even eat. The food was, there was no taste because it was so sad at that point. I was like, this is bitter. This is the bitter taste, man.
Let me ask you about before, before you tell the marble stuff, the one dude, he goes up and he gets multiple helpings. They show him on camera. He goes up. Were there rules against that?
Nope.
So he was just allowed to.
You weren't. That wasn't obviously social rules.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the cameras, obviously, you saw that they were tracking everyone. Yeah. They saw them doing it and they let it happen. So if it's within the rules, I guess do whatever you want. But I certainly never would have done that. It's not acceptable to me. But if it's within your boundaries to be that despicable and because there was no telling that if you did that, somebody else wasn't going to end up without food. There were 2 or 3 times that I remember specifically. I always got in the back of the line. I wanted everybody to eat first. Yeah. I don't care about the food, man. I was expecting to get no food.
You were like, I'm going to get lean.
So, yeah. So I was jacked. I was ripped, you know? So there were 2, maybe 3 times where I got to the front and there was no food left. So I knew somebody was taking too many. Yeah. But they went back and somehow found more food for me. I didn't know it was him. But if I would have known that, yeah, I would have wanted somebody like that out.
Another side note, while you're in the, I guess you call it the dorm area, yep. Right? You were in there, was there a challenge every single day?
No. I guess they tried to do every day, but at one point, I think we may have gone 2 days with nothing, which was worse in my opinion. Because
no TV, you just hang out.
No, everybody's just talking. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing. The downtime, again, these reality shows, if you think about it, there has to be more downtime than uptime. Yeah. You know, some of the challenges take whatever
production
a couple hours. Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of just sitting around. So you just try to talk to people. Yeah. I was like, listen, you're going to force yourself to talk to every single person. But after 1 minute, I didn't have to force myself to listen to these people talk about their stories and their backgrounds and details about their lives. I can tell you, because I memorized every night, everybody's name, their number, how many kids they had, because if that came up in a quiz, I wanted to know the answers. So I didn't sleep at all. I stayed up staring at that light above my bed going, okay, Doc has 7 kids, 18 grandkids. He does bees. He plants orchids or whatever, flowers. You know, he has bees on his leg that represent his grandkids. The flowers represent his kids. I mean, I was going over these details in my head every single night, and I could still tell you them today. I wrote a whole book about my experience and every single detail I remembered about every person because I wanted to commit it to memory for the game. Yeah. But also, I don't want to forget the little things, man. Yeah. The little conversations, the little things that happened are way bigger than Warship. Like in my head to remember the little things that I learned about Jimmy K or Mikey from New Jersey. Don't see on camera. Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of cool conversations.
Let me ask you another question. So when the whole process, you were going for a total of 3 weeks and you made it to what number?
I think I was there. The finalists were 17 days. I think I was there 14 and a half days.
Okay. So then there was some layover time, I guess, in between. Do they give you an exiting interview?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that when everyone's at the table? Is that what that is?
Those are called processing room, and they only gave those to certain people. And I didn't think I was going to get one. I got one.
You got one.
I wish they would have showed. It's funny. The only thing that I talked about, not the only thing, everything I talked about was my kids. Everything. Because that's my world, is my kids. And they didn't show anything about me talking about my kids, you know? But to get a processing room interview, you knew that possibly you were going to get some screen time. That's, you know, after we're all talking. And I got a processing room. So I was like, great, maybe I'll get some time. But even going into it, I had no idea. You know, are they going to show me at all? Are my kids going to go, where were you for real? Because we didn't see you on TV.
So you were completely surprised when it finally came out, it's released. They didn't say, hey, Dan, check this out. You not like a pre-screen?
They called everyone beforehand to prepare you. Certain people that should have gotten a lot of time. They said, listen, unfortunately, your story didn't fit and you're really not going to get much time. You're seeing it conversations. So they did try to give you a heads up, but they didn't give you any details like you're getting a lot of screen time. Like I was completely surprised.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy for you. I really
Thanks,
happy
man.
for you. So you and Marcus play. Let me ask you about the marbles. So you find out you play marbles. You're in there. Why were some people playing it like almost like there was a basketball? Like it wasn't a traditional make the circle and knock it out.
You could come up with any rules you wanted. For me, as an athlete, I want to do something where I was throwing. And Marcus is an athlete too. He's a big cornhole player. So it didn't take us any time to come up with our game. Some people, as you saw, never even agreed on a game and they got eliminated. For us, and that's another reason why I did want to kind of be with him in that, because there was not going to be an argument. We were going to come to an agreement because we wanted it to be fair, both of us to have a shot. So we just did a simple, it was probably 10 feet. We put a little sand in the bottom of the bucket. That set was amazing. You felt like you were in a town in Korea from the show. I mean, it was the details, the way they painted the buckets. There were vines on the electrical wires. It was so cool. I didn't want to think about any of that though when I was in there. I'm like, I'll think about that later. I got to focus on what I'm here for. So there was a broom there, like an old broom. We broomed the sand. We made it nice and smooth. We made lines like a bowling lane, and we had a line that we had to stay behind to shoot. And we said, all right, we're going to shoot 10. Whoever has the most wins.
Yeah. And it worked out.
Luckily.
It worked out. And that is when ultimately the mom and son duo.
I can't imagine how that felt. Yeah. I can't imagine how that felt. Well, listen, people are saying that she lost to him on purpose, and she is a huge competitor. She's an athlete. She wanted nothing more than to beat him. I can tell you that right now. She was even saying, listen, right before
she didn't take it easy on herself.
No, she said, right before she said, I'm going to change it up on him. Right before we go in there, I'm going to say, let's play a different game. She said, I'm going to get in his head. We were talking in the white room. Yeah. So she didn't give that up to him. No way.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So, Dan, episode 7, you finally meet your demise and get eliminated. Walk us through what happened.
So before they started that, we had to pick a captain. TJ, of course, volunteered himself and said, I'm glad all you guys had faith in me. I didn't. That was my only regret in the game, was not trying to argue for myself to be the captain there. I got to give him credit. He took a chance. But he certainly wasn't unanimously voted captain. As you saw, Big Chad was sleeping. He missed. It's all he did the whole game, by the way. He slept in his bed, and it worked. But he said, he's not my captain. He wasn't in my direct alliance. TJ was in a different alliance, so I didn't want him to be captain. He was going to pick other people or have their backs before mine. So we go, before it happened, now TJ's the captain. The women are obviously going to band together. It wasn't a surprise. There were 9 women, right? 22 men.
Smart move for the women.
If I'm in that position, I'm going to do whatever I can to make it to the next round. If it means saying, hey, we're both 5'11", we should stick together. Whatever it is there the most minute commonality? I'm going to exploit that too. So good for them for trying to do that. However, everyone is making a big deal about this women's alliance and the manslaughter and this and that. If you watch the episode, there were 9 women. 4 of the women did not pick women. So in my eyes, that women's alliance wasn't even a real thing.
That's true.
They didn't pick women. The people that picked somebody just because she's a woman, that makes no sense to me. I'm going to pick the only person out of whoever's out there that has my back. That's who you got to pick there. You're trying to win. So to just pick women to make a statement or to represent, it makes 0 sense. I have 3 daughters. I'm a huge proponent of women. But in that situation, I'm going to pick who's going to give me the best chance moving forward. So I would have picked Perna or Chad if Chad was still there and Perna wasn't an option. Chad was supposed to pick me. But when we lined up in the dorm, Chad said, what is this? I said, it's a safety chain. And he said, what is that? He didn't even know what it was. I said, well, each person's going to pick somebody until we get to 20. Then the people that are left out are gone. He said, I got you, man. I said, all right, I got you. And he didn't got me. That's for sure. But we've reconciled. My little guy hates him, but not really. He doesn't really. We saw each other, Chad and I, and we've talked multiple times.
He seems like a genuinely nice guy.
Good dude, man. Good dude. He made a bonehead mistake. The guy that he picked, he had 0 relationship with. That guy was not going to save him if he had a chance. That guy would have never picked Chad. And if you watch Mikey talk about it, he said, I could not have been more surprised that he picked me. So if somebody didn't pick me because they thought strategically it was smart because I was the fastest or I was the smartest.
You could be perceived as a threat. Right?
If that was the reason why I wasn't picked, I'm okay with that. That wasn't the reason. You know what I mean?
You think so?
Yeah. People were picking, again, the women wanted to pick women, which didn't come to fruition.
But did they pick the women because they think I can compete against a woman and the result might be in my favor versus if I compete against a man where I might lose?
That also would have been a strategic move, but that didn't happen either. People picked, for the most part, people picked number buddies or people they were friends with, which makes sense. So this women's alliance thing didn't affect me. I was friends with a lot of those girls, a lot of them. I just wasn't as close of friends as some of the other people. But one girl said, I have never spoken to this person, because you had to give your reason for why. I have never spoken to this person once this entire time. She didn't even know her name. But I'm going to pick her in keeping in the spirit of women's power or something. And she didn't know her name. That's silly. To me, that's silly.
It's a game.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a game about winning, and you got to do what you got to do to win.
Yep.
Sorry that didn't make it to. So you were what? I mean, you had to be top. I think that at that point it was 31 left, and then there was a bunch of you.
There was 11 great gentlemen that went out that day. I was 21st. Perna was picked last. Obviously, if you saw the show, you can ask him. It's confirmed. He was picking me no matter what. So to me, in my head, I finished 21st out of 456.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's impressive that you made it that far, and it sucks you didn't. But win it or make it to the top 3. But man, you're killing it. The fact that you got screen time, so much screen time when people didn't, that you made it to number 21, that you dealt with all those other things, and you start the Gabu gang. There was no other gangs. I mean, it didn't get screen time, not that I saw. Yeah,
the only other alliance they talked about was the Corner, which I was there, and I was day 1. Under the right side of the dorms is where that alliance was formed. And I was there. I was in that alliance on day 1. And they said, what do we want to name it? And I had my chance there to call it Gambu. And I said, no, I'm not using that yet. This doesn't feel right. So, but yeah, I wanted to name an alliance something that mattered. So that's why we picked Gambu. Sense.
Now, so once you're eliminated, you go, you do the outro or the exiting interview, right? Were you able to watch the rest of the games? Or
no.
Anything else? When
you were eliminated, when I walked out of that door, out of the dorms, I didn't look at anybody. I didn't want to see anybody's face. I didn't even want to make eye contact. Yeah, I had some choice words in my head. I'm glad I didn't say them. The main producer, her name is Holly Wood, believe it or not.
Shut the fuck up.
She grabbed me.
First name Holly, last name Wood.
Yes, she grabbed me by my collar and pulled me into an interview room. And I did interviews right after for probably 2 hours. Wow. I mean, and I'm glad they didn't show it because I was ugly crying like a 2-year-old. I mean, I was upset, man. You had been
playing this for months. You made it that far. I think I would have cried as well, dude.
And it was more of a depressed feeling of I lost. I just let down my kids, my wife, my mom, my dad, my friends, the gang. I let all these people down without a chance to save myself. Again, it's sour grapes because I was a victim of it, but to eliminate 11 people that far into a game for $4.5 million makes no sense to me. Again, Netflix, I have nothing bad to say, but if you want to eliminate 2 people.
It was a weak challenge.
It was
you couldn't come up with, spend a couple of dollars to come up with something better.
Flip a coin. I don't care. At least I have a chance.
Yeah.
Let's arm wrestle.
It was some
anything.
Bullshit. I agree.
So,
it was some bullshit.
And again, I'm not bad mouthing Netflix. I can't even make anything up to say that's negative. But in my eyes, again, probably I'm skewed because I was one of the victims of it. It just seemed like a weak way to eliminate 11 people that late. They apparently knew they needed 20 for the bridge. There had to be a better way, a competitive way to get rid of 11.
They were scrambling for a way to get a big chunk of people out quickly?
Well, I mean, again, the scale of this production, they had to know they were going to do that. I don't think they came up with that at the last second, but I think they could have had some sort of game. Let pairs play Dachi together. I don't know.
Maybe they didn't want the 45 people doing the bridge.
They did, yeah. They knew they needed 20.
They wanted around 20.
I think they knew they needed exactly 20. That's why in the safety chain it was 20. But there had to be a better way to get rid of 11 people there. There had to be. Let me compete in anything. I'll fight everybody in here. I'm not going to win, but at least I have a chance. Maybe the guy falls and hurts himself and I win,
I agree. To me, it looked like an easy cop-out. It looked like an easy cop-out, and they could have did something better. Like you said, rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, anything. Anything.
I like the fact that Squid Games was about, you don't have to be the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, because they have old all the way to very young.
Yep.
And it's just, I wouldn't call them simple games, but semi-simple games, but at a very high level. And with against a bunch of other people, which makes it very challenging. Yeah. So Rick and Steve, that breakup. So how did that go? I mean, you saw it unfold when you got back to the dorm, right?
So the Rick and Steve elimination was painful because we had just done Warship. Our alliance was on a high, but it didn't happen out of nowhere. If they did show, Steve and Doc went and did a chore. First of all, those chores put targets on people, in my opinion, because everybody knew you're getting something. If you're going to do a chore, it's not just a chore. You're going to get something, or at least we assume that. And they did. They won the chocolate bar. What they didn't show, Doc came out. He's like, Dan, we want a chocolate bar. I go, okay. He goes, we're only going to share it with the Gambu gang. I'm like, okay, great, whatever. Again, I didn't care about the food. I was hoping everybody else was depleted. So we sat in our normal area to eat our dinner that night. And Steve is 2 people over from me. I'm sitting here, and he's breaking up the chocolate bar, trying to be secretive. I said, dude, put that thing away, man. We have all the time in the world. We're eating dinner.
Like a cracker.
Yeah. And it was probably, this thing was this big, and it was the squares. So I said, dude, somebody's going to see it. Put it away. Next thing I know, I look literally to my left. I feel somebody sit next to me, and it's Felicia. I was friends with her. Yeah. Nice lady. She didn't sit with us for dinner, though. So she was coming over there. So immediately I'm looking around the dorm going, all right, who else is looking? Who sent her over here? Who's working with her?
Oh, she was snooping.
Yeah. So Steve's like, oh, it's so good. And she leans in front of me and she says, what's good? And he said, oh, my rice. I'm like, well, we're fucked, So she sat there and then she eventually left. And I don't know if she knew it was a chocolate bar, but she knew something was going on, and that probably threatened her. Maybe she was worried they had an advantage or something. But that being said, I can understand her if everybody's now worried about this Ganbu alliance. I can understand her saying, all right, I'm going to take out who I feel is the figurehead, who is the leader of that. So when she took out Steve, as much as it hurt, I'm like, all right, she thinks he's leading the Ganbu gang. That makes sense. To then go and take out another guy from the same alliance makes zero sense to me. You in the show, you saw that the girl Cheney says she's going to get the mother or son right here, obviously. Yep. That's the common sense move right there. Break up the blood bond in that room. She didn't do that. I don't know why. Then she took out Doc. And then some people are trying to say, well, Doc practiced all these games and he's smart because he's a doctor. And that was not part of her mindset. I can guarantee you that. That was not why she got rid of Doc. She wasn't thinking that he was great at all the games and I'm getting on a threat. If she did, she would have got rid of him first. Yeah. She made a good move getting rid of the kid with the advantage. I would have done that. Anyone that has any strategy in their head at all would have done that. So it was a common sense move to get rid of him. Yeah. People are like, that was a brilliant move. No, that was a common sense move. If you were up there with that chance, he should have been the first person out because now he has an advantage. And she did that. So she's a smart player.
Makes sense.
Smart player. But I just, again, maybe I'm skewed because they were both friends of mine. Yeah. But from a strategy, gameplay standpoint, I don't see the reason to do 2 people from the same perceived group. It didn't make sense to me.
Plot twist, it was a Mr. Beast bar.
But hey, listen, it's her game. I don't hold any grudge against her. She came up to Marcus and me afterwards. She said, listen, guys, I'm really sorry. I said, you don't have to apologize. It's your game. Do what you want to do. I said, we'll be okay. But she wasn't like F you, I got your guys, I know what's going on. Yeah, she wasn't like that at all. She was like, I'm so sorry, don't be mad. I said, we're not mad. And when she walked away, Marcus and I said, we just got to keep our eye on her now because she's obviously a player.
Stay vigilant.
Yes, always vigilant.
The question everybody has, does anybody else get money besides the person who wins first place?
I got, hold on, carry the one, $0. No one got anything except for Mai is the only one.
Wow.
In a lot of these shows, there are per diems. The longer you make it. In Survivor, if you make it to day 15, you get way more money than the person that got out day 2. And I think a lot of...
yeah, that's how I thought, because the Survivor second place gets a little something.
100,000, I think. Yeah. But not in this game. And it was not like it was a surprise. It was very well documented. You knew going in that the only person that's going to win or get any money is the winner.
Was this an official Netflix show, or did somebody else, some rich guy, film it, produce it, build it, and then sell it to Netflix, or was it from Netflix from the beginning?
It's a Netflix show, but it was produced and cast by a company called Studio Lambert. Mr. Lambert is a super rich guy, all right, who owns the production company. So they were responsible for the production of it, but it was a Netflix show. I think Netflix hired Studio Lambert. That's what I
so
my understanding.
Like he made it and then tried to sell it.
I think Netflix
it was all planned out.
Wanted to do this show, and they probably, I don't know, interviewed whatever word, multiple casting and production companies to figure who was the best fit, and they picked Studio Lambert, and they did a great job.
Yeah. Did they give you any numbers, analytics on the like? Because you guys were trending for a couple weeks in top 10 on Netflix. At least on my account, I saw it. You guys were in top 10.
At some point, we were the number one show watched in 76 countries.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Holy shit! So, congrats!
Yeah, it was.
Everybody's seeing you.
Listen, it was such a cool experience, and the fact that it's been so well received, it's just icing on the cake.
Oh, I've been talking all about it, and when we post this podcast, I'm gonna boost the shit out of it. What do you think Netflix could have done to make the contest or the game better?
They could have had me win. That's what they. No, I don't. Other than arbitrarily just eliminating that many people without a chance that far into the game, I can't imagine what they could have done different. Again, maybe I'm sour grapes because I wasn't picked for the kickball team, but it was amazing, man. From beginning to end, Netflix and Studio Lambert. Anyone that's complaining is just sour.
Yeah. Would you, if you could go back in time, what would you have done differently in that game? If you could do like one or two things.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me that. Obviously, if I could go back knowing what happened, I would have picked one of those girls and been her best friend the entire time.
Makes sense.
To just guarantee that I got picked. Yeah. But I was friends with those girls, So I don't know if there's anything I could have done different. I mean, I had great relationships. That marbles game hit a domino that just eventually caused my entire stack to fall because R. Kelly, one of the Gambu gang, lost to Chad. Jada lost to Mai, another New Jersey girl who I'm friends with. Rosie lost to Amanda. I mean, Rob lost to Perna. I mean, there are so many things that happen in marbles that dictated what was going to happen next. And all of those things that were dictated were not going to be in my favor.
Very true. It's very true. Oh, I like the attitude towards it. I really do. I like the attitude towards it. So I've watched a few YouTube conspiracy theories on the Squid Games challenge. Some people are saying some players were treated more fairly or even given more time just so they can move on to the next round. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, and a girl who I'm friends with from the game, of all the people I've talked to, and I've been getting nothing but positive feedback. Again, they portrayed me as a nice guy, which I am, I think, but I got very good at it. I've been getting nothing but positive. But she said to me, in a room full of influencers, you were the most genuine guy there. And that meant a lot to me because there were a lot of people that are TikTok famous and Instagram and all this social media, YouTube. And some of them, their purpose for being there was to get more followers. and to do things after the game, to be able to say, hey, I'm on Squid Game, check me out. That was not my purpose. I didn't care if I got any screen time until the last day, because that means I won.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people like that, and it showed in the way they played. They were probably being exaggerated versions of themselves. And I think, I mean, Brighton went on record saying that his cookie broke and they passed him through.
What?
It's on an interview. I don't know if he meant it a different way. So I don't know. I don't know if people were treated differently. Was there time added to the red light, green light? Yes. At the very end? Yes. Did it help some people cross the line? Yes. But I don't know if that time was added because when the clock stopped, just like in a basketball game, and they let the clock keep going by mistake and they have to add time. I don't know, but I can confirm that it was added. But I don't know the reason. Maybe it was a legitimate reason why that was added. Maybe Teo and Brighton's cookie didn't break and they misspoke.
Yeah.
And they were still passed through.
Or maybe it broke while he was taking it out.
Yeah, again, there's a million explanations. Maybe the Warren Commission can look into that and find out the real answer. But I'm sure they had an idea of who they wanted to go far. Yeah, the guy who's famous already on YouTube. It makes sense.
I mean, it all really comes down to marketing.
Yeah.
This guy's marketable. If he gets further, more eyes on the TV. That's it.
My argument to that conspiracy theory is they had games that they couldn't control.
Yeah.
So if you wanted Brighton to go to the end, you could have rigged it so he didn't go out and Warship.
Yeah.
But he did.
Very true.
So there were controls in place to assure, I think, that they didn't just put through whoever they liked or wanted to go through.
I can see that. And it also makes sense if they had to change the clock here and there. And it was the first game. If they want to get a couple more people through, I don't even think it's that big of a deal, even if it did happen. To be honest, because you get through there, so what? Now you got more players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you think there was any cheating by any players?
I hope so. I mean, they played my comment in there. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I know. And what is cheating and what is just trying to get an advantage? I think taking extra food is cheating. But if that kid could get away with that, more power to him. It's not something I would have done, but if in a game for $4.5 million, if you can stay within the rules, and nothing in the rules said you couldn't try to steal other people's food. If you could stay within the rules, if you're not doing whatever you can do to win, why did you even go?
Push it to the absolute limit.
Why did you go?
Push it to the limit.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
That's right. Dan, to me, you weren't the average player just because I know your background. I mean, you played college baseball. And you used to do orthopedic surgery. You don't do that anymore. You're a physician's assistant. Why did you go into going from playing baseball at that high level to then becoming a physician's assistant? What made that decision?
Well, I knew I wanted to do something that was around athletics. Mm-hmm. So my undergrad degree is in athletic training. So I was an athletic trainer at a college and at a high school for 4 or 5 years. And then I realized if I ever have a family down the road, the athletic trainers at high school, they have to be there every night because every field has lights now. Thanksgiving is the big football game. The day after Thanksgiving and Christmas break is wrestling and basketball. So I knew that if I ever have a family of my own, I'll never be able to see their stuff. Mm-hmm. I ended up going to PA school. And I knew I wanted to do orthopedics. They don't really go into orthopedics that much, but I had that background already from athletic training, and I wanted to be around a facet or a field of medicine where people want to get better. I didn't want to be treating cancer patients, terminally ill patients, people that have earaches and sore throats. That's not my thing. I wanted to treat people that are athletic and want to get back to doing athletic things. So orthopedics was a no-brainer for me. I got lucky. I got a job right out of school with orthopedics, and I did it for 18 years.
Wow, 18 years. I mean, and you were fully going in with those high-tech machines, digging in there. I've had 2 meniscus tears, so you were doing it all.
Oh, robotic knee and hip replacements, absolutely. All of it. It's so fun.
I like that you said it was fun. To me, it looks scary. People are under anesthesia. But I mean, I guess you do it enough times, you feel very confident.
Everybody thinks doctors, especially like technical surgeons, oh my gosh, they must be godly. No. If you did 2 knee replacements, you could do a knee replacement. Yeah. Obviously I'm being sarcastic. You have to know what you're doing, but it's a mechanical skill. And once you're good at it, it's actually fun. It's actually fun. There's a lot of mind, it's a thinking man's sport, orthopedics. So every step is going to impact the next step of a surgery. So that's part of why I like to do things the same way every time, because if you don't, you forget stuff. And that comes from doing surgery for so long. So orthopedics was the only thing I was going to do. And I was going to hold out until I got an orthopedic job.
I love that. It comes in helpful with pretty much everyday life.
It helped me in the cookie, I'll tell you that. If I wasn't for using scalpels for all those years, it would have made it a lot harder to get through that cookie.
Surgical hands, right?
Yeah.
But baseball, how far did you make it and where'd you play?
Sure. I played all through high school, obviously college. Then I played professionally for a year. It was so fun. Yeah. People are like, oh, you got paid? I'm like, yeah, but I would have paid them. Where
did you play professionally?
I played for a independent team, Portsmouth Explorers, out in Portsmouth, Ohio.
Okay.
For the Frontier League.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're going against people. You said you got hit with a 92 mile an hour.
Yeah, that was in a summer league.
People who have not played baseball and had a ball go by them, even 65 miles an hour, it's scary. And you're thinking 75, 80, 90 miles an hour. It's scary as fuck. It's fucking scary as hell. And the fact that you have to swing, matched, like the precision and timing of hitting a fastball that's going 90-something miles an hour is insane. That's why it's just a small percentage of people are able to do it. You got to think baseball is played around the world pretty much, just like basketball. NFL football is not, but baseball, and there's just a very small amount of people who make it to these levels.
Listen, to hit a round ball with a round bat squarely is the single hardest thing to do in any sport, okay? You have an eighth of a second to swing, take, or duck. An eighth of a second. These guys are throwing 106 miles an hour now. 106. And they know where it's going. If it gets away from them and hits you, you could possibly be maimed for your whole life. Yeah. That's why these guys wear the face shields now. I mean, and I got drilled. I got drilled on purpose too, I think. You
didn't charge him out, did you?
No, I was out. Out. Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's a summer league. The guy that was pitching had played minor league baseball. He just got released. Mm-hmm. So he's obviously pissed that he's playing in a summer league, a collegiate summer league. Guy before me hits a home run. It was the year after my freshman year of college. I was literally standing like this in the batter's box. I wanted no parts of being there. I couldn't even see it. The ump called the first one a strike. I'm like, sounded like a strike because I didn't even see it. It was 0-2. And I was literally almost out of the box. And he drills me right in the face. I remember striding. And then I remember going, oh, man. I was behind the backstop now against the building. My dad was in the Marines in Vietnam. I've never seen anything scared a guy. Ever. I opened my eyes, and he has his shirt on my face, which I could see is covered in blood. And when I saw the look on his face, I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. My face must be hanging off because he looked scared. And I'd never seen him look scared in my life.
Did they instantly take you to get surgery?
Yeah, plastics did my whole face. I got an infection after it. 2 weeks later, I go back to my first game. Who do you think I faced?
No way.
Same dude.
Shut the
It was first and second with 2 outs. We were down by 1. I hit a double in the right center gap. We won the game by 1. So that if I had struck out there, it might have changed my whole trajectory in baseball. I mean, I was a little scared.
Very understandable. Very understandable. I don't know if I've ever went against anybody who threw 90, but I've been against many who threw 80, and I was afraid.
80's fast, man. 80's people are like, oh, that kid throws hard. He must throw 90. No. 90 is a different level. And 106, literally, I have
Nolan Ryan.
I have to think they're guessing, and they're just swinging where they think the ball is going to be, because your mind can't see the ball, recognize it, tell your hands what to do, and get the bat to that spot in that short of amount of time. It's amazing.
It's so impressive.
People watch Bryce Harper. Oh my God, he did it again. Why doesn't he hit a home run every time? You have no idea how hard it is to do. The stuff that kid does, it shouldn't even be able to be done.
And didn't the first couple years, he he was wearing contacts. They eventually gave him laser surgery or some shit.
I don't know. Probably, yeah. And he was
like
still able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are freaks. You take any baseball player, and he can probably be half decent at another sport.
I agree.
You take a football player and let him go hit a baseball. Watch how they swing. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only Deion Sanders.
Yep, he was great. Bo Jackson was obviously one of the best athletes in the world.
The video of Bo breaking the bat over his head, like, with such ease.
Yeah, it was so like a toothpick.
Yeah, it was so cool. Because you feel those wooden bats, like, this shit's no joke.
Yeah, they're heavy, man.
Just a few more things.
Sure.
Dan. You're a huge Survivor fan.
Huge.
You're a huge Survivor fan. So how did Survivor help you in your strategy with the Squid Games?
I think it helped tremendously. Some people that have never even seen or watched a reality show, and again, this was, you thought you knew it was coming and you didn't. Everything was a surprise with Squid Game, the challenge. But at least I had the mindset of, I need to make a team. I need to have other people. I need to be friends with people. I need to not, even if my real self is that I'm a loud, obnoxious, confrontational person, I cannot do that in here. Some people don't understand that and didn't, and it showed. I knew that there has to be advantages here. I thought there was. Again, I was locking the doors to the bathrooms and the showers multiple times because the cleaning crew, we did have to clean too, but sometimes they would lock them. They're cleaning. You can't use the bathrooms now. Once I saw that, I did it myself, and I was hunting through boxes with the women's tampons, every box, every wrapper, trying to find an advantage. So it kept my strategic mind going, being such a fan of Survivor. So it helped tremendously. And I've been listen. I keep saying listen. I have to stop. But I've been applying to Survivor for 22 years.
You hear this, and I knew this before this conversation. I knew who's a diehard Survivor fan. 22 years you applied. 22
years. Caitlin Moore, Jesse Tannenbaum, Jeff Probst. Take note, all right? This is a diehard fan right here.
Get him on Survivor. Survivor, take this man. What are you doing?
I mean, it's just the I don't know why. I can't explain it. I've just been enamored with the game for so long. I love the whole idea of the social part of the game. I think I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest, and I'm not the fastest in any room. But I got a good combination of those three things. So I think to be a good Survivor player, you don't need to excel in just one. You have to be a Renaissance man. You have to be able to do all of those things. And that's why I think I would be good at it if I was given the chance.
I think you would too. And not only all those things you just talked about, you're also malnourished.
Yep.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
I mean, a lot of people in America, unfortunately, I said this in another interview, they live to eat instead of eating to live. I'm 52 now, man. If I drive by a Burger King with the vents open in my car, I gain 7 pounds just smelling the food. So I've learned to eat better and to eat strategically. And so to be calorie restricted, not a problem for me. I could go days without eating. So what? I mean, 0. I've done it. I've done those fasts. I've done 48, 72-hour fasts just for fun.
Yeah.
That's how
it's good for cleansing.
I just want to challenge myself to something, But, after running somebody to their recital to practice, doing homework, helping with the cooking and the cleaning, then I want to challenge myself a little bit with something other than working out. So it's a game that I play, and it just keeps me motivated. Give me something to do.
You're a rare human, Dan.
Oh.
You're a rare human, man. And in the show, you talk about having 5 kids. So all boys, all girls?
So I have 5 kids. The 3 at the top are girls. Kelly is 23, Avery is 21, Danielle is 16, Danny is 9, and Baylor, boy, is 3. So I have a large spread. I'll be working till I'm 456 years old. That's why this game was important to me. Yeah, I mean, to be a dad, it's why I'm here. It's why some people are, all right, you were supposed to get the Nobel Peace Prize. You were supposed to be president. I'm supposed to be a dad. It's the reason I get up every day. If I didn't have to work for money to support my kids, I would never work again. I hate work. I like what I do, but I hate work. I want to stay home with them every minute. I want to watch them learn how to use a fork. I want to watch them walk for the first time. When you're a working parent, you miss a lot of that stuff, and it sucks. It really does suck. So anything that enables me to hang out with my kids, and Squid Game, the challenge, Dad's cool again. You know,
Yeah.
They loved it. They embraced it. I do a lot of the episode recaps with my little guy, Danny. He's going to be a star.
He's in your video.
He's going to be a star. He's got star power.
Shout out to Danny.
Danny boy. But yeah, being a dad is why I'm here. I had a great dad, and I think it's important to be an active dad. If they're sick and they're coughing through the night, you get up and take care of it. If they need their diaper change, do it. We need dads. The paradigm in our society, unfortunately, has been dads go over there and make all the money to take care of the household. That is not our purpose, guys. Our purpose is to bond with our kids too. And this is not I think, and you can disagree with me, I think you should be able to compliment something or someone, and that doesn't mean I'm putting down something else. And I preface that because I want to say dads are important. Dads matter. And me saying that doesn't mean moms don't matter, but dads are just as important as moms. Not more important, just as, certainly not less important. And if you're an active dad and you build those bonds with your kids, I mean, why did you have them if you're not going to be there? I hear guys, don't bother daddy today. It's Sunday and football's on. It makes me want to throw up. What do you mean, man? You're watching a bunch of other people do something. Why don't you do something with your kid? All right. But if we can be active with our kids and physically active ourselves, I'm not falling asleep at 6 o'clock at night after I eat my 5th bag of Cheetos. It doesn't happen because I work out every day. I do it at 5 o'clock in the morning so I can get it out of the way. They're sleeping. I don't want to sacrifice my time with them for myself. So I get it done before they even get up. And now I'm ready for the day. Nothing worse than coming home after a long day of work and still having to work out. That's terrible. So get up early, get it done. And then you have time for your kids, your family, your work, your wife, whatever it is. But get it done early. And the days that you don't want to do it are the most important days to do it.
You get up and you go anyway. Even when you don't want to do it. Because you got to think, do I want to be around? Kids are a great motivator for wanting to be alive. And not only be alive, be functional. And I'm glad you said that. My dad wasn't around growing up, and the people who've been following me for a long time know that my dad wasn't around growing up. So my goal has always been to be the best dad that I kind of wish I had growing up. And my dad died in 2012 from a heroin overdose. He was never a part of my life. He was a shitbag, whatever. I forgave him, went to the funeral. But now that I have a son he'll be 3 in a week, and then I have a daughter who's 3 months old, I know exactly what you mean in regards to I want to spend as much time as I possibly can with my kids. And I feel guilty when I'm not. Or it's almost selfish for me to do something that I want to do. And I know there's self-love, self-help, all that cool shit. But I want to be with my son. I want to spend time with him. That's what makes me happy. Another thing that I've noticed is, you know how they say, oh, dad jokes suck, blah, 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 blah. The reason there are dad jokes is because the greatest feeling in the world is your kid laughing. I mean, my son's laugh is the intro and outro to the Dot Dattie podcast. And having your kid and making your kid laugh, I don't know of a better feeling than that. I really don't. So dads are they're going to say the corniest, shittiest joke they could think of because there's a chance they might laugh, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are, if you can influence your child in a positive way, and I don't know the statistics and the demographics, but if you take anyone that has done something bad, anyone who's in jail, anyone that has taken the wrong path, I can guarantee you the majority of them do not have a male father figure in their life.
It's all on the statistics.
And again, I don't assume to know the statistics.
I've researched them.
I know them too, but I'm not going to say I know them. But so I don't want my kid ending up dead at 14 because he's smoking heroin. Yeah. I don't want my daughter ending up being a prostitute or a stripper. I want to influence my kids. And that's why I work out every day. When my little guys say, Dad, can we go work out? Even if I did it, we go down again. And it's not really a workout. He's 3. Yeah. But they'll jump around on the weights. And I want to show them what I think is the right way, man. Do what you're supposed to do every day to be a better version of yourself. And if I can ingrain that in their head, maybe when they don't feel like going in the backyard to use the batting cage because they're tired, maybe they're going to do it anyway. Yeah. Maybe if they don't feel like studying for that test, they're going to do it anyway. Maybe they don't feel like calling grandpa to say, hey, thanks for the birthday present. They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, you're instilling a strong work ethic. I completely agree with everything you said. And I hope that more dads see that. And the football thing, it's so funny you say that because we're not friends on Facebook, but I went on these rants about watching football's cool if you're with a group, but am I going to let it dictate how I feel and how I conduct my day and my life? And am I just going to sit there? No, I'm going to get shit done. I'm going to have fun. I want to hang out with my kid. I completely understood everything you said. Not a lot of people will, though.
Listen, if the Eagles win today, do you have to go to work tomorrow?
Damn right.
If they lose today, do you have to? So the fact that people want to fight other people over their favorite team, I don't understand it. And don't even get me started on fantasy sports. Don't get me started on that. But I don't understand I think it's great to have something to root for. Yeah, my home team is this, but okay, if they lose, I still have to go pay my electric bill. It's entertainment. That's all it is. And people get a little caught up in that. And when it starts taking away from your responsibilities as a dad, as a mom, you better check yourself.
Give them bread and circus and they won't revolt.
That's right.
Football is the new Roman Coliseum, right? Dan, thank you for coming on. Your story is incredible. I really hope you make it onto the Survivor. You absolutely dominated, making it to number 21 out of 456, the whole process, and just knowing your journey. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man. This is great.
I
love the outfit too.
What are your socials? So how can people find you?
Sure. All of my my Facebook obviously is my name, but again,
you have your Instagram now. So Dan, he said he wasn't really into social media. Now that he's on Squid Games, he's got his social media. It's growing. What is your Instagram name?
My Instagram is Get After It Dads, and my TikTok, which I'm working on, I'm not good at it. My daughters and my wife help me, is Get After It Dads.
I'll spell that.
GetAfteritDads. Get After It Dads.
No underscores, nothing in between.
No.
And we'll add that on here over your face.
My thing, I want to encourage and inspire and even educate all dads to be better versions of themselves. That's why I'm doing this. I want dads to be there, man. We're important, regardless of what society wants to tell us. We are important to our kids, to society actually. The most underappreciated, undervalued, and underestimated job in the world is being a good dad, and you can do it. I'm doing it. I'm trying. Every day I'm getting better at it.
You don't have to be a lazy, fat piece of crap sitting on the couch dad. You can, even if you're overweight or you feel like shit right now, your life isn't where it is, you can get up and make the decision to just start improving your life. And it's not going to happen overnight. Day in, day out. Just do what you need to do, execute those tasks, and each day it will get better because you're working towards a goal. And you can make your life better. And when you feel good and you look good, it's going to make the people around you feel better because you're going to put off positive energy. And that's really what it comes down to. And when you're a positive person, your kids are going to feel a lot better as well.
Couldn't agree more. It's a simple formula. Losing weight and staying in shape is a simple formula. It is not simple to do. It's a simple formula. Expend more calories than you're taking in. It's very simple. You can do keto, you could do carnivore, you could do intermittent fasting. The bottom line is you have to take in less than you're spending out, and you will lose. It's impossible to not lose weight. You don't need that fourth Krispy Kreme. You don't need it. So if you're eating 4, maybe try 3 this time. It's once your body gets used to it. I'm 52, man. My metabolism is garbage now, so I have to be very selective with what I eat. And once your body gets used to it, it will adjust. If you're used to being 185 and you want to be 160, once you get to that 160, your body will adjust and it will feel like that's where it needs to be. Hammer out your protein, do intermittent fasting, do whatever you need to do. Eat more protein and less total calories, and I guarantee you will lose weight and you will look better and feel better.